to unmute?
Okay, we just unmuted.
Yep.
Okay, which is fine. All right. All right, so as soon as... Oh, and I see everything it's showing is showing us on a delay. And that's going to be incredibly distracting.
Don't look at the screen.
Okay, well, I'll try not to. Yeah, okay. All right, it's extremely distracting when everything's on a delay, but okay. All right, so we've got...
Can you guys hear us okay?
Yeah.
It's like a 40-second delay or something.
Yeah. It's incredibly distracting, but...
So you want me to read the questions still?
Yeah, can you fit in?
Well, not yet.
We got
some time.
Got some room.
I just want to make sure everybody can hear.
We got 4 minutes.
Can we see you?
What's that?
What mic format are you using?
Well, I see myself on the back screen.
Oh, actually, yeah. If Randy's
Right.
asking questions here.
Can you bring that window that's in the back to the foreground? If that gets rid of the delay, then that's going to make it approximately 1 trillion times easier to figure out what the heck we're doing.
That'll work.
Whatever's in the background, bring it to the foreground.
Yep. Just not in the corner. There you go. There
All
you
right,
go.
what is it from Spaceballs? This is now. Okay, good. All right.
When will then be now?
All right, when will then be now? Soon. Okay. All right, so now we got Ben. Okay. So Randy, unfortunately, is going to have to get a little closer. And so Marty, you don't want to get in on this?
I'll just say hi.
Okay, come on into the back and
Jennifer,
say
come
hi.
All right.
All right, I guess we're basically... Oh, yeah, Philip, you come in and stand back there with Marty, I guess.
God.
All right, there we go.
Oh, good. The
Family
gang
photo
is
time.
here.
Hang on, we got a thumbs down. So
Okay.
I don't know.
Thumbs down?
Somebody walked in and we
Yeah,
got a thumbs down. I think it was Philip. Get out. Oh, Philip. No G1000. You're out.
Yeah,
Okay. All right, so what time do we start? We started...
Honestly, let's start now. We got 3 minutes. We can start answering questions.
We may as
We
well.
can start answering questions now? Okay.
Introduce
All right, well, how about do a quick intro? So, hey, I'm Austin Meyer. We're doing the live stream on What's Happening with X-Plane. So we're coming at you from Kansas City, basically, where we are at our twice annual Laminar Research meeting, and this is where we decide the future of X-Plane. So with Laminar Research, obviously, everybody's located at wherever they live. There's no such thing as a commute at Laminar Research. There's no such thing as an office. Everybody works all over the world, and about twice a year we get together, decide what we're going to do in the future. And X-Plane, this is one of those meetings. We've been neck deep in this for the last 36 hours, so we know what we're doing with X-Plane next. We just decided. Well, mostly, there are certain contentions, certain arguments. There's no doubt about that. But I think we have more or less of a plan, and so we know what we're doing next. And now we're going to take questions at our semi-annual meeting from anybody that feels like asking. So how about a quick intro so everybody can connect faces to names. So we'll start with Chris.
Hi guys, I'm Chris Serio.
And you do,
I do quite a bit of stuff.
including virtual reality for the Oculus and Vive.
mobile.
He does VR.
Virtual reality.
Yeah, VR and mobile.
A lot
Okay.
of mobile.
My name's Ben Supnick. I do rendering code, graphics. I curse the computer a lot. I talk on Skype. I drink scotch. That's not in that order. Scotch is actually the first priority.
Okay.
I'm Marty Aaron, and I do marketing for X-Plane, and I talk on Skype with Ben.
And Marty's the one that thought of getting us started with Aerosoft, getting us started with Steam, and so Marty is like the guy kind of behind the scenes. When you see Laminar Research make a big move in sales, and you're like, well, I wonder why they're on Steam.
That's enough.
Okay, fine. That's enough. Okay, next.
Hey, I'm Philip Ringler, and I do the avionics stuff in X-Plane, the GPS, the FMS, the new EFIS G1000, and also a little bit of background work in systems code and also Steam.
I'm Tyler. I do a lot of things, chief among them the X-Plane 11 user interface. So if you love it, talk to me. If you don't, it's Ben's fault.
Okay.
I'm Alex. I'm the art director here at Laminar Research. I spend my days cursing Blender and Photoshop, and talking with Ben a lot, and also drinking scotch. So it's kind of a company thing that we do. Yeah.
This might not be obvious from the video, but it's the guy with the biggest beard who gets to be art director.
Yes.
So that's-
So Alex is art director.
It comes with the job. It's part of my job description.
Daniela says, Ben, you rock.
Okay.
I'm Jennifer Roberts,
Aerospace.
and we say I do everything but the code. So I do a little bit of bug testing, some documents, and answering bug reports.
A lot of documents.
Yeah, a lot of documents and a lot of bug reports.
And a lot of testing as well. A lot of testing.
Tutorials and
My name is Randy. I handle customer support. If you've ever called in or emailed in for help on the customer support line, it was me that you ended up speaking with. Hopefully I was able to help you out.
So there we go. So those are the intros. This is not my entire band of merry men, but it's most of the core team. Have a couple people scattered out in Europe that didn't make it here to this meeting. But I guess the deal is, we got probably 59 minutes left, and it's an Ask Me Anything. And I guess, Randy, are you getting questions showing up there?
I've got many questions here. The first question
Give us the
talks
best one.
about rendering options and will we get more sliders and options in the graphics menu. This question came from the giant unicorn user.
Okay.
Well, okay,
That's a
so
title.
let me give you the background that led to the decision to do the rendering options the way we have now. In X-Plane 10, there were a bajillion options, and you could set them all more or less independently. And what we found was that it was really, really hard, unless you're the guy who wrote the graphics code, like Ben, to know what was gonna slow down your frame rate under certain circumstances. And so the idea with the X-Plane 11 user interface was we made good choices for broad categories, such that you never get something really, really dumb. You never get a billion cars and no objects on your airport. Like, obviously, that's not something that you actually want to look at in the sim.
So I want to point out here that there has been some pushback on the developer blog about the rendering settings, and in 2 cases where there was a lot of pushback recently, we looked into what was going wrong and why does someone want to set the setting, and what we found were serious bugs in the engine. Sure. So we didn't put the setting back. What we did is we fixed the problem. Shout out to Sydney, by the way, because I think he's watching us right now.
Oh, cool.
And being like, those are the guys I work for.
Yeah.
But Sydney was the guy who went and looked into the problems. For example, I want to not have 12 DSFs because orthophotos are slow. The actual problem was there was a giant bug in my water code that was causing the entire sim to freeze out for 2 seconds. I mean, this was a disaster. And having less DSFs helped a little bit, but fixing the stupid code completely fixes it. That's in 11.02. So it's useful to get the feedback. It's useful to hear what's going on. But in a lot of the cases, the really good fixes are not the compromise of, well, if I had the setting, I could make it a little bit less painful. It's fixing the underlying engine so that you can have everything work at once. So I think in a lot of cases our goal is just make the engine awesome and you won't have to choose. You won't have to turn stuff off to get a good experience.
Okay, so first of all, the tiny little bit of marketing thing, and then the reality. The marketing thing is, we want everything to work well with a good rendering engine because we want to be hitting 60 frames per second to run in virtual reality in the fairly near future. All right, now the reality. Ben got sick of stupid rendering options, and so what he would be, I would hear from Ben all the time, he'd be like, this guy has the vertex count is through the roof, but the pixel throughput is nothing, or perhaps the other way around, and so the video card is totally bottlenecking on one little thing that was slowing down the sim, but leaving all this money on the table. Like, it was totally limited in fill rate, but it could have gone to much higher vertex count. And he gets so annoyed that people aren't getting the settings in there that make sense, and so he wanted to make the sliders to auto balance the loads so you got the best experience you could get.
This is totally true, but there are probably people out there who are actually better than me at setting the settings, and this is still possible. There's a text file, and you can change what the sliders mean. And if you go in there and you change those and you do better than us, please send me the file. We'll ship that. If you can actually make it better, we'll take it. Why not?
And what is the little header at the top of that text file?
It says, do not touch this or your machine will set on fire. But if you scroll down enough, then it says, okay, it's still
let's
here.
Move on. We're only got 4 questions in for this entire hour. Okay, Crazy Diamond asks if there are any significant changes planned on the developer side of things with apps like PlaneMaker.
Hold on. Bad things that happen if you adjust the text file that messes up the rendering settings. Bad things include X-Plane crashing, X-Plane hanging, X-Plane failing to start, rendering artifacts, your whole computer hanging, your computer catching on fire, and highly trained monkeys stealing all of your underwear.
There you go.
Okay, so
that's in there. That's actually written.
Yeah,
I just wanted to make sure people weren't going to touch the file unless they really meant it. Right?
Okay, got it.
So again, Crazy Diamond's question: developer apps, things like PlaneMaker, WED, the SDK, and additional tools. Something that he requested called Engine Maker.
Hang on, guys. We got to stop hitting the table.
Sorry. So you're going to the mic. Sorry. Okay. Okay. So the question is there going to be an engine maker, as in the engines?
Well, there's a bunch of things.
Any significant changes planned from the developers?
So yes.
So I have made a tremendous number of changes to the engine model. I am not sure what the next changes will be, but I can tell you what I have coded for 11.10 and other recent updates to 11. Recent updates to 11 and 11.10, which is going to be a future update to version 11, hopefully kind of sort of near future. I've done a tremendous amount to manage all the shock waves and stuff like that into the engine inlet. And with supersonic jets like the F4 Phantom, it's really the shock waves on the inlet that can determine how well the engine performs more than the engine itself. It's actually been said that the purpose of an engine in a supersonic fighter is to pressurize the inlet, because that's actually what pulls the airplane. It might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but the shockwave management inlet is tremendous. So we got the pilot's operating handbook for an F4, and we looked at how long it takes to accelerate up to Mach 2 and how long it takes to slow down from Mach 2, on back down to subsonic speeds. So you get both the thrust and the drag correct. And no question, I made the jet engine model much better. I'm now getting performance data from the, I think it's the CFM56, the engine like the A330 and the 737, I think, and really getting good mapping between N1 and N2, and the way the inlet recovers the dynamic pressure of the air and turns that into thrust, and how the engine thrust kind of deteriorates as it loses the ability to accelerate the air, because the air is already coming at you fast. The thrust deteriorates as you speed up, and then the thrust kind of starts coming up again as you start building up dynamic pressure. So a lot of improvements in the jet engine model I've done recently, including possibly stuff for 11.10 that you haven't seen yet, but will. Oh yeah, sorry. And also new engine models for the Pratt & Whitney PT6, which is in my current airplane that I fly, Lancer Evolution. And so I've done a lot of flight testing the Evolution to really get that PT6 dialed in to fly it just right in X-plane. And I've also gone through my old flight test data in the Columbia 400 and the Cirrus SR22 that I used to fly to kind of dial in the reciprocating engines a little more. So I do not plan an engine maker.
Is it safe to say that if they want to edit engine parameters, they can?
Yeah.
That they should probably email you and discuss what part of the system they wanted access to.
Very likely, yes.
Yeah.
And I'd prefer people email me if they really know the specifics of a particular engine that I don't know, and then they can really teach me something.
Right. The engine model's not so simple that we can just be like, here's every number, go to town, right?
That's right. A lot of them are hard-coded constants inside the sim that says, well, according to Austin Meyer's flight test, you get this much torque by increasing the throttle and not increasing the RPM in the PT6.
Some of those might be fair game.
Some of those could be fair game for adjustment if somebody wants to come at me and say, oh, well, you just need to tweak it up a bit to get the Garrett engines instead of the Pratt & Whitneys. So bottom line is, I've done a significant amount of engine modification. It's all been based on actual flight tests and operating handbooks. And we may do an engine maker in the future, but it's really not planned. What I'd rather do is just get the operating handbook, do the flight test in more airplanes, see where my engine model needs to be improved, and see if I can improve it in a way that just has it just be improved. And it may be that you need to resave the airplane in PlaneMaker to get the latest improvements, and that's a strategy that Ben convinced me to adopt, to not just be changing the engine model under people and surprising them all the time. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and make it so that future changes to the engine model only roll in when you resave the aircraft file in PlaneMaker. Because that's what says, oh, this guy's modifying the airplane, I'm going ahead and upgrade to the latest stuff. And that way, somebody upgrades X-Plane and doesn't just find that your add-on is broken if you're an add-on manufacturer when he never even touched the PlaneMaker.
There's a couple developer tools coming down the pipe. New release of the Blender export scripts supporting everything in V11. We do have more things we want to do with World Editor.
I'm seeing a lot of stuttering here. Are we just running out of bandwidth here? Maybe if you close your browser, so you're not using bandwidth?
No, that's
I'm not seeing
fingers
stuttering.
Okay.
I'm not seeing
You're not seeing it? Okay.
We are looking to update the plugin SDK for 11.10, so that's in the short term. We actually, Tyler's done a bunch of... Where did Tyler go? There he is. Tyler's done a bunch of stuff to get plugins access to V11 features. So plugins, 3D exporting, World Editor, we're in pretty good shape for those tools, and I think all that stuff will be out this year.
Yeah, I'd like to jump in and answer questions that I've been seeing here.
Go for it.
Okay.
A lot of people are asking about sounds, so we do have new sounds that are coming. Do you want to give the number
Well, it depends on what the thing is.
for the Baron?
For 11.10.
Okay.
Real soon now!
Yes.
Yeah.
So in 11.10 there will be we did an on-site recording with a professional sound recordist, and we do have new sounds coming for the Baron in 11.10, which sounds.
Which involved him
amazing.
cowering behind a Baron at full throttle, trying to not be blown away by the prop wash of the engine with the microphone in the prop wash.
Yeah, we do.
And
have,
also cowering behind my Evolution to get the signs for the.
We do have
PT6
recordings too to try to tackle the King Air. but the King Air is not done yet. The Baron is done, and you'll see that in 11.10.
Just wait until you do the sounds of a 747 standing behind you.
Yeah, you guys are gonna
Can
have
I
to
be
get
the guy who
some-
stands behind that? That sounds like I saw it in Pushing Tin.
Anybody who's seen Pushing Tin knows that's not going to happen. So yeah, if you're not aware, we do have a new sound engine in version 11 called FMod that allows us to do absolutely amazing sounds. So sound is definitely going to get some attention in the future.
And it's ready for third parties now.
That's
so,
right. Yeah, if you're a third-party developer, you can go to the developer website and find out how to use FMod yourself.
Perfect
Okay, Chris.
place to do the 747 sound would be Martinique or
same.
Yeah, we just stand on the beach with the phone and
Princess Juliana. I'll volunteer for that.
Chris, there's several questions that have come in about mobile, looking
Yes,
for updates
so,
on mobile, information on mobile.
Mobile, the next mobile update will have the G430, G530, and the Airliner FMS. It also has a brand new updated MD80. That's a free update for people who've already bought it, which lets you basically interact with any of the systems and switches that you can already interact with on desktop. Basically, the desktop plane on mobile, with the new Airliner FMS built into it. So that's going to be coming. We're currently testing it right now, so very soon, maybe in the next week or two.
To plug the MD80 a bit,
Yeah.
I shot a video showing off the cold and dark starts and stuff, and it's as realistic as it gets. To teach me how to do a cold and dark start, the artist sent me a link and said, "Here, just watch this video of how you start the real MD80." And I was
it's a weird plane.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, we could talk about the weird stuff another time, but there actually is the standby compass is above the shoulder of the first officer's head in the ceiling, and it actually reflects off of mirrors on the glare shield.
Yeah.
Where are you going to put it on an MD-80? You've got two middle-ish posts, so weird.
You got special buses you use just to power the start sequence or something like that you can't use in flight or something?
Probably. I only know little bits and pieces.
What's cool though is that all this weirdness is on mobile. Like it's just as detailed as the desktop product.
Yeah.
There's no it's a phone, so it's simple.
Right.
It's full power.
The flight model from X-Plane Desktop does now go to the iPhone.
There's just the X-Plane flight model.
Right.
Yeah, and the X-Plane flight model has been used in quite a few levels of FAA certified sims as well. So you can now have the flight model of certified sims on a phone. That's age rendering into. It's pretty amazing.
It's like Star Trek.
All right,
really
several
is.
questions have come in on seasonal textures, snow, rain, blowing snow.
What did we decide on? I think we decided it's not happening super soon.
Not super soon now.
That one has not been given a thumbs up. Sorry.
We're certainly aware of it, and
Every meeting it comes up in discussion. We never forget it. We never forget it. It always comes up, and it's always put behind something else. See, here's why
it's in the Sunday bucket.
do it to the end. But here's why I'm not super thrilled with seasonal textures, and I think Ben kind of agrees. As soon as we do it, it becomes sorry, I keep touching the table. As soon as we put in seasonal textures, it becomes a little bit harder to upgrade our scenery experience because we have to update all these textures. It would slow us down as soon as we locked ourselves into it. So if anybody wants to make scenery texture add-ons, you can kind of do it without fear that we're going to suddenly undercut you in the near future.
The engine is fully capable of doing seasonal, parameterized, whatever you want to drive in an add-on. The engine can do it.
Another thing I see being brought up is the ground shake. I
ground
see this
shake
one and
is
I want to talk about it because I've been complaining about it myself for several years. Ben?
Ground shake is going to be fixed in 11.10. Or rather, it is fixed in 11.10. Everyone gets ground shake fixed. We killed that.
Yep.
Finally.
I might as well kill the VR question too. We demoed the virtual reality headsets at the Flight Sim conference in Hartford, Connecticut. To toot our own horn, I would say it was a huge hit. Customers really loved it. We have support, native support coming for the Oculus Rift and the HTC Vive. Currently slated to be out around the fall.
We're going to get 11.10 done first, and then we're going to try and get VR.
It will be native support. You will not need any other plugins. You will basically just, it will depend on Steam VR, which is free, and you plug in your headset, check one box in the settings of X-Plane, and you'll basically be ready to go. The other thing that's important to note is that you can still use all of your existing hardware. If you have a yoke and pedals and throttle quadrant, you can still use that. If you would prefer, you can also use the controllers, and interact with all of the manipulators in the cockpit. So if there's a knob, you can reach out and turn the knob with your wrist. If there's a lever, you can grab the lever and pull it. Or basically, it's human feel to it. So you're going to reach the same distance that you would in the real cockpit as if you were sitting right there, right out of the box.
And you can take your little magic wand and grab the yoke and steer with the yoke.
Yes.
You know,
So
you're doing the whole thing with your little magic wand.
You can use 2 controllers and no joystick. You can use 1 controller and 1 joystick.
Right.
Can you use do you have to have at least 1 controller?
No, you don't.
Okay.
You don't need controllers for
anything. If you have enough stuff on your stick.
You know, HOTAS style.
Yeah.
Stick.
I think most users are going to want to use their existing yokes and throttle, and they're going to replace using the mouse with one VR controller, which will basically function to reach out and do things in the cockpit with knobs that you don't really want to bind a button to turn your OBS knob or to turn a frequency on the Garmin.
Right, and the controllers we're using are the Oculus controller and the Steam controller.
Oculus
the ones
calls them the Touch, I think.
Yeah, the ones that you would have with your headset. That you
And the other neat thing to note about the controllers, if you don't already own them, is that they have haptic feedback built into them. So when you turn the Garmin knobs, you feel the click, click, click. So you don't even have to
weight on a magnet goes. Boop, boop, boop,
you'll feel the click.
Yeah.
And another cool thing is you can use both controllers at once. So you could be tuning the Garmin by feel and turning on landing lights and things like that at the same time.
Ninja.
It really is. It's kind of amazing.
Right. It's an uncanny thing. It's just
And the controller lets you go outside the airplane and go do a walk around and check your gear. And,
but it's more than that. I mean, you can be flying along in the Cessna, and you can stand up in your seat, and all of a sudden your head is above the wing. That's right. You look out to the left, and you see the fuel cap. You look out to the right.
It's like
just imagine flying in some kind of open cockpit.
You can ride an airplane like a horse. It's awesome. I love it.
The thing that's incredible about VR that you can only appreciate if you've tried VR is that the airplanes go from being as big as your monitor to as big as an airplane, and all of a sudden the 747 is enormous.
Well, you stand next to the tire and you look up.
Years ago, Austin and I got onto the field at Mathers Field, and we got to walk around and just look at the airplanes.
Yeah.
And there was this old 747-100 cargo plane. It was beat to hell. It was all patches. But we just got to walk under it and look up into the engine and look up at the tail. And it's like a whale tail, 1,000 miles above you.
Yeah.
And VR actually captures that experience perfectly because for the first time, the 747 in X-Plane is physically as big as a real 747.
Yeah.
Just a couple quick notes. I noticed people, because I mentioned Steam VR. Steam, you do not need to have bought X-Plane through Steam for Steam VR to be. You just need to install the app. You could have bought X-Plane DVDs, or you could have bought it from digital download from our website, or Steam itself. It's just the Steam VR app, which is free, is all that's going to be necessary. So no, you don't need to have bought it through Steam.
The good news is we're only going to charge $500 for the VR app.
That's right. Yeah. No. Steam
small price compared to
VR will be free.
It's free. Okay, I've got a couple of other questions here. One on ground handling.
Oh boy.
Being able to taxi airplanes, screeching nose wheels, things like that.
All right, this is the second time. All right, this is the second time I've heard this today, and boom! This is the second time I've heard this today. That's a good thing for whoever asked the question. What it means is these guys are hassling me over it too. So, I have worked on the ground handling to make it less tire screechy. I've done this for 11.10, which will be in beta in the coming, I'll say weeks. The coming weeks. I didn't say how many weeks, but we're talking weeks, not hours or months. But so I'm improving it. I think I'm going to improve it more. One of the things I'm going to do that I don't think I've done yet is really put a good rate limiter on the nose wheel steering on the airliners. So it'll only come left and right so fast, and that'll help a lot too. So
we have, by the way, tried that, and it did work.
It does. Right, because what's happening is you have a little Microsoft Sidewinder. You twist it, and in just one frame, in 30 milliseconds, your wheel goes from this to this.
And there's no way that's not.
And now you're skidding. And if you're skidding, you don't have any traction, and the plane never recovers. So but the real pilot doesn't that. He does this, right? With the tiller, right? He spins it, and it doesn't happen as fast. And if you do what the physical plane would do, the physics are actually pretty good. But we have to do something because if you don't have a tiller, if you have a joystick, you can do things that are unrealistic and get unrealistic behavior. But this is the hardware we're stuck with, right?
Yeah, so we're just going to do rate limiting on how fast the things can steer. That's going to help a lot right there. So sometimes when people say X-Men doesn't fly like the real airplane, some, not all, but some problems are just due to the fact that a little Sidewinder joystick just doesn't have the rate of motion and the weight and the precision and the self-centering and the feel and all that of a real aircraft flight control system. And so the trick is to come up with ways to solve that to work around that, but without ruining the flight model of X-Plane. And one of the ways we do that is in the joystick screen in the setup in the 11 UI. We can set the non-linearity of the joysticks so that the inner, say, 50% of the travel of the joystick gives you the inner, say, 5% of the actual flight control deflection on the airplane. So you really get fine-grained control close into the center. And another way we can do that is rate limit our nose wheel
Right,
steering.
because we never want to be in a situation where the actual control surfaces go up and the physics are wrong.
Right, that's what I
If you
won't
actually
do.
manage to get the control surface doing it, it should do exactly what the real plane does.
That's
Even
right.
if it's, airplanes can roll, right? Like airliners can roll.
Of course, absolutely. It's so yeah, the 707 is on tape doing a barrel roll in one of its airliner
So if
demonstrations.
you really command that, you should get that.
Absolutely, no question. Yeah, we don't fake the flight model. Oh, but there are certain airplanes that won't roll, the Airbuses. And so they're limited to 60 or 67. I think it's 60. It might be 67 degrees at bank. But I'm actually programming the Airbus flight control system in X-Plane right now for 11.10, and I'm doing it for some Airbus pilots that want to build a flight sim business on the side. And so they are feeding me back just documents on how the Airbus flies and feedback on how the airplane flies. These guys fly the A320, Air A321 all day, every day, and they're giving me feedback to make sure the Airbus flight control system is just right in X-Plane 1110. So we're going to have an Airbus flight control system for 11.10 that is like dialed right into the airplane. And no, it's not going to roll. It's going to rate limit to 67 degrees of bank unless your speed gets too high, and then it'll start limiting you to 33 degrees. So it'll do just what the real flight control system does.
But to be clear, we're not shipping an
That's
Airbus.
right. We're not shipping some sort of a magnificent, perfect Airbus A321 with all the object and all that kind of stuff. This is a checkbox you can get for the flight control system, so you can enter the right flight control system in Plane Maker with the check of a single box. And then anyone that wants to make a good Airbus for X-Plane, I'm looking at you, add-on developers, please do it. I don't think we have making our own fancy three-dimensional A321 on our short list. So I've got a checkbox for you. You build the ACF, you check that box, you should have an airplane that flies like a real A321. It'd be a great add-on airplane.
If I check this in the Cessna, so I'm going to get a Cessna that flies like it?
Yep, you'll be bank limited. Oh wait, but the speeds are set for the A320, so it's going to go into underspeed protection like 100 knots. So
it has to
it
be
might
an
be
equivalent
different.
airplane
Fantastic.
to
It
the.
might be
I think. Well, it might. I'd have to recall. It might be that this really set up more up based on angle of attack than speeds. But I know the overspeed limits. Well, they're based on the MMO and the
But I can just
VNE,
go
which
into
are entered
Plane
in
Maker
Plane
and
Maker.
attach a CFM56 to the Cessna,
Yeah.
right? And that'll,
Yeah, you can.
that'll be at speed. All right.
Put it on the
Yeah.
roof.
The answer is yes.
I know
You
what I'm doing
can.
tonight.
I haven't tried it, but in theory it could be done.
Since we talk about this, sorry, one sec. Since we talked about it this morning, I see people asking how to get betas on Steam.
Okay.
Do we want to discuss this? Or?
Sure.
Yeah.
That's a Marty question.
No.
That's a,
No, I think what we decided this morning is that we want to give that we want to work on improving our Steam release process so that it is cheaper for us to release betas on Steam earlier and more often.
Right. So the goal is that stable betas, ones that have been out for a day or two, and we don't immediately go, "Oh my God, we just wrecked everything." But ones that are good.
that's never happened.
Never.
Almost
We get about 50% of them right. But the stable ones can be on Steam too, and that way, when we get a beta that people want to test or where there's a nice improvement,
And there's
Steam users aren't locked out in the cold for 2 weeks or 4 weeks or 8 weeks.
Yeah, there's a different process for uploading onto Steam, and
Right.
it takes longer. And sometimes, even with this decision we made, it's going to be maybe a 24, 48-hour delay before it gets up.
Right, but Tyler has made tremendous progress in automating pieces of making X-Plane, and if with the automation of it, it's not as much of our time, and so we can do better in terms of getting people beta sooner, which would be nice for everyone.
And to be clear, the reason we have not done it in the past is because it takes a half day of Philip's time, and we always have to make the decision: do we want a half day spent on GPS systems, or do we want a half day uploading a beta that we might replace in
And also, I think we've always had, at least I've had this idea that when it goes out to Steam, it's done. Whatever they get on Steam, it's done. But I think it's time to take that attitude and toss it.
Change it.
It's now it's not going to be when it goes onto Steam, it's done. It's just for the people that don't want to experiment. I think the Steam folks have said they want to experiment.
Right.
So I never want to stop that.
Okay, while we've got Philip on stage. Let's talk a little bit about avionics platforms. A couple of questions on G1000. That's a Garmin. Never really heard of the G1000.
Yeah, no, you've never used it. I don't know. It's coming in 11.10. Oh God, no.
Oh yes, you said it.
Now you're
no, it's stuck. Now I have to ship it.
Now you got to ship it.
Now I have to ship it. I'm going to regret this later. So in terms of what features it has and what you can expect, look at what the 430 and 530 can do. Look at the pages that it has, like dialing in the flight plan, setting up the sits and stars, dialing in an approach, doing a DME arc or vectors to find load, whatever. Looking the nearest airport, nearest NDB, nearest intersection, nearest airspace.
What about the map and terrain?
Well, and it has a terrain relief map, like you would have on the real G1000.
Right.
It has the weather overlay,
Right.
like Nextred weather uplink in it. It is not going to have the auxiliary trip planning page and the auxiliary option setup page or whatever. So basically, look at the 430 and 530, look at what pages it has and what pages the 430 and 530 don't have, and you have a pretty good idea what the G1000 is going to look like. So everything the 430 and 530 can do in terms of things that you can do to the flight plan, things that you can look up, the G1000 will be able to do the same thing, but don't expect it to have crazy features that the 430 and 530 don't have either. So that's about how I describe it.
Just a plug for Philip. This man loves avionics more than any sane person should.
Yeah.
And he goes into details such that the rest of us have to come to him and be like, what is this thing? You know,
Is
It's
there
amazing.
a manual yet?
Yeah.
How many times have we asked for that?
Yeah.
And it's like, no. Well, the manual's later. I'm like, but I've got to test this.
Yeah. So it's
I don't know this.
fantastic. He does amazing work, and it's going to be really great.
Yep.
It'll be nice just to drag and drop. I've already dragged and dropped the G1000 into my little 844 X-ray model that I
Exactly.
have
Someone on Facebook commented on the picture where we are all sitting in the lounge chairs and looking
right.
at the big map. Someone in the Facebook comment said, "Oh, is this the long overdue G1000 that we see on the screen there?" And yes, exactly. So
Answer
what
yes.
you saw on the screen was the result of Austin taking 10 or 15 minutes of his time to get my G1000 to his airplane.
Less than 10 or 15 minutes. As long as it takes to drag two instruments and plane maker.
Exactly.
Less than 10 or 15
It's
minutes.
long overdue. We should have had it in 1977.
Exactly. at least.
Would you have
Yeah.
beat Garmin? Huh? Would you have beat Garmin
Yeah,
in 1977? I thought so. Yeah.
Definitely.
People would be like, what is this thing?
All right, Mr. Ben, we have a question about Vulcan.
What about it?
Put your ears on.
Nice done.
So we are actively working on porting the graphics engine to Vulcan for Windows and Linux, and for Metal for OS X, and I think we're also going to look at iOS for Metal and Vulcan and Android. And what this gets us is a better foundation on which to build a rendering engine, and a better foundation in which to talk to the graphics card. What we get is better performance. We get more predictable performance. We've been improving the frame rate in every patch since 11.0. Mostly Sydney's been doing it. And we're going to keep doing that. But as X-Plane gets faster, the little bumps become much more of a problem. It's one thing to hit a speed bump when you're going at 15 fips. If you're only at 60 fips, every little glitch feels like, oh my god, it was smooth and now crashed, right? What Vulcan gets us is it gets us predictability. It's an API designed for high performance, multi-core, reliable graphics. And so the Vulcan driver tells us, if you do these things, we're not going to stop and take a powder and slow down the frame rate. We're just going to run fast. And so we can guarantee, because we use certain Vulcan calls, that we can run at 60 fips. And that's been the target. Austin's been asking me for this forever. 60 fips, no stutters. And Vulcan is part of our way of getting there. It lets us guarantee that not only do we not stutter, but the driver doesn't stutter.
And kind of a cool thing about this is when you do Vulcan, a lot of the time, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think I am, a lot of the time spent loading up the video card buffers with data, not actually drawing the frame. And see, here's what's cool. We set up the simulator so that it's loading the video card up with data while the flight model is running at the same time.
Right.
And then that's where the speed just suddenly hits the twin turbo engages, because now there is no flight model cost because it's happening while the video card is being loaded with data. And then the flight model's done, the video card load is done, and you hit bang, render. And that's when the second turbo kicks in.
One of the biggest goals of Vulcan, because Vulcan was done by the same group of GPU vendors who worked heavily on OpenGL, was to get multi-core right. They looked and they said, everybody's got 4 cores, all the game engines are multi-core. How can we allow them to start working on 4 cores at once and get more of the frame done fast so that one core doesn't have to carry the entire frame at 60 FIPS? So this will let us do that in a way that we never could with
I forgot to ask, is Vulcan code longer or shorter than OpenGL code in lines of CPP code?
You're not going to like the answer. Don't look too closely.
All right, we've got a user named Giant Unicorn who writes,
Again, cool.
Damn, I can't really find stuff to complain about. They must be doing something well. Austin, how's life? You want to fill some of your other things you're working on, some of your other odysseys?
Sure, absolutely.
Just for 5 minutes, not for
5 minutes.
You can do that,
Let's give
and
him 2,
afterwards
'cause we're
you have
halfway
to talk
through.
about ATC. So
Yeah,
you
okay.
can talk
To
about that,
ATC.
and then he has to talk about ATC.
All right, 2 minutes on how's life. Okay, so I flew 844 X-ray out from Columbia to Kansas, so flying my bird around is great. Dialing in the performance on X-Plane to match my airplane perfectly so it flies just like the real thing. It's just a plain old boring ACF that looks like a gray whale when you fly it, right? It's nothing to look at, but it flies just like the real bird. If anybody wants to shoot me an email, I'll email you the aircraft file. The patent scam, the documentary I made about the patent troll lawsuit against me has been approved for distribution by Gravitas. It's going to be on all sorts of pay-per-view options on cable TV on August 15. And so on August 15, I'll blow out some sort of an email either through the mailing list or the website or whatever Tyler says I'm supposed to do to release information. So this is like the information release gate that keeps me from doing things stupid that ruin X-Plane. But I'll release all the ways you can watch the patent scam on August 15, which I expose is just the asinine insanity of the patent system that you just literally wouldn't believe if I told you. But I did some investigative reporting. I found some people that act as patent trolls. I exposed actual patents and actual victims. The bottom line is the way the patent system actually works is somebody that is sociopathic writes down on a piece of paper everything that he wants to collect money for somebody else doing, right? Or he writes on a piece of paper everything he thinks somebody else should do. And if anybody actually does that thing, he sues them. He says, you infringed on my patent. And the amount that it does to damage small companies is absolutely crazy because it costs about $3 million to defend yourself against one of these patent infringement lawsuits. And about half of the patent lawsuits in the entire country go to one tiny, tiny, tiny little district of Texas, which is the farthest corner of the tech industry in the nation. Literally, take out a ruler and measure it on a map. It's the farthest corner of the country from any technical innovation. And that's where all the patent lawsuits are held.
Can I just say, one of the things I am really proud of about X-Plane is that we were able to develop X-Plane 11 and not just knuckle under and say, patent troller, we're going to give into your extortion. We're going to knuckle under. We fought this and we won. And I think that's good for everybody who's going to get.
Nobody can be sued on that patent again. So what happened is they sued me for patent infringement. They said if I just gave them $50,000, they'd go away. I did not give them $50,000 to go away. Oh, and I'd have to sign a non-disclosure agreement, so I could never tell anybody what happened. So
and a percentage of royalties.
I don't think they asked for that. They just wanted $50,000 and they go away. But I have to sign a non-disclosure agreement, so I couldn't talk about it. So they give them $50,000 under the table and they go away. That was their offer. And the vast majority, about 97% of the people, when presented with this offer, take it. They give the patent troll the money. They sign the non-disclosure agreement to never say what happened to them, and the patent troll just goes away with 50 to say $300,000, and nobody ever hears about it. And then the patent troll just sues the next person. What I did is I spent, how much was it? $300,000, $250,000. I spent
more.
Well, the total, they were suing 7 of us at once. We spent over $1 million in legal defense, but it was split like 7 ways. I think I was down for maybe $250,000, something like that. But I spent that much in legal fees to overturn the patent as stupid, which it was. And now Unilock, the company that sued me, can never sue anybody else for patent infringement on the same patent because I went to the time and energy to prove that the patent was garbage, which again, it was. Now, here's what's interesting. Microsoft was sued alongside me. But for the same patent, the same lawsuit, the same patent, the same everything, same lawsuit. Before I overturned the patent, Microsoft settled. Microsoft settled with Unilock and gave them money under the table, signed the non-disclosure agreement, promised to never talk about how much money they gave the troll. So Microsoft settled and gave the troll money. Now, what happens when Microsoft settles? Well, now the troll has more money. What do you think they do with it? They sue all the small businesses that can't defend
more
themselves.
money, and they have the incentive.
Right. And Microsoft does not get the money back just because the patent was overturned.
That's correct. So Microsoft paid the patent troll, legitimized the patent, and set the troll up to sue more small businesses. Microsoft settled, whereas I stood up, overturned the patent, and won.
Okay, other than patent troll and patent scam, you have some other things.
Sorry,
you
I'm starting to
want
get
talk
mad. So
there
I'll
are
stop.
there's some projects you're working on that are top secret. Don't know if you want to talk about anything that
Secret stuff?
Well, you can't talk about that. But is there anything you can talk about? Anything else you want to say quickly?
Well, this isn't the Austin Myers show. This is the Explain show. Let's go on to the next question about
Chris, you have
Explain.
some questions over there?
Yeah, Ben, talk about ATC. Everybody wants to know about ATC and AI.
Well, we have discussed it muchly.
It was terrible. We spent 3 hours of the meeting just talking about ATC.
we did
Arguing about ATC.
Arguing.
Vehemently with emotions running high.
We probably spent 4 altogether.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
The crash when you spot the field is fixed. Thank God in 1102. Austin has code that allows the AI aircraft to operate at untowered fields, and we're moving.
Let me say this in a more fun way. Can I
Yeah,
answer the question?
All right.
Okay, Chris wrote the initial ATC system, this guy right here. He thinks like an air traffic controller. He coded all the rules of air traffic controllers. All the way the air traffic controllers say, well, let me clear you up to this runway. Let me wait for guys to land. Now I'll clear you across this runway to the runway you're actually going to take off on. All these detailed, fidgety little rules of air traffic controllers that I never even want to think about. He coded that. He didn't get the job as finished as he wanted to, but he will. What I did is I looked at this system and I was like, it doesn't look done. I want to program a system that flies the way I fly, which
is dangerous in general.
which has no consideration of air traffic controllers, that flies the way I think is most efficient, and yes, that I happen to think is the most safe, to get from point A to point B with very little regard for air traffic controllers or pre-approved routings or rules or any of that. I fly like I code, which is the way I think is best regardless of whether anyone else in the world agrees with me. And so pretty soon I kind of finished developing a prototype of this system. And then yesterday, in the little movie room where the little pictures posted on Facebook, I showed everybody my new air traffic control system. They said, Austin, it sucks. You're not following the rules of air traffic control. You're just flying like a cowboy getting from point A to point B. You're not following the ATC rules. And we literally argued for 3 hours over whether Chris's adherence to the rules of ATC or my adherence to the way I fly an airplane is the way to go. And it finally became clear after 3 hours. It's like the peanut butter and chocolate thing. When you mix them together, it makes the Reese's peanut butter cup, right? It became so obvious. We use Chris's ATC for the approach control stuff. We use my system for the VFR untowered to untowered field and touch and goes and all that kind of cool, wild and wacky stuff where people aren't following controllers' instructions. And then Chris and Ben fix the bugs that we do have in his ATC system to dial it in. And then we got the best of both worlds. My system doing the untowered field to field without controllers, his system doing the field with controllers, and it's just going to be all that much more variety, all that much more detail, and we each deliver the part of the system where we are strongest. And we just agreed to that about an hour ago after much arguing. And that's what we're going to see.
So with the Austin system, if you go and you fly to an untowered field, you no longer have to give up the presence of dynamic interaction because the AI will become smart enough to follow you there even though they don't have a controller to talk to.
So the other airplanes are going to start following you like paparazzi. I'm just preparing you for it right now. You go to an untowered field, and this will hopefully be an 1110. I don't see why it shouldn't be.
We'll see.
I mean, maybe I'm letting myself write checks I can't cash here, but I think we can probably get an 11.1. You fly to a non-towered field. If you have some other AI airplanes set up that are general aviation that can operate at the same field, and maybe you give them 5 or 10 minutes to be ready for you, by the time you get over there, the pattern will be full with guys doing touch and goes and getting in the way and announcing, upwind, downwind. I mean, it'll be hectic and crazy, and of course, what that means is fun. So realistic. So we're gonna have an ATC system that really capitalizes, I think, on each of our strengths, and it's going to be a really varied and diverse experience, which is just going to be crazy fun.
I would be curious to hear from users about the kinds of things they're looking to see in the future in the ATC system. We have a not short list of things to do. I mean, Chris and I are both ex-VATSIM guys and spent more of our life than we like to admit studying the actual. I've read the 701065 enough times to kill me. But if there's specific things that are like, I really wish it did this, or I really wish I had that feature, I think it's worth knowing what's most interesting to people when they fly in a sim, because you know, the ATC system is a huge and complicated system, and not all parts are the most important. So
Yeah. But what you'll see, the bottom line is you'll start seeing better air traffic control from the controller and airplanes in uncontrolled fields. So turn on other AI airplanes whenever you feel like flying, and it'll just make the whole thing more fun if you go to non-towered fields.
I'm out of questions over here because I'm only showing the first 200
on,
or something.
On weather and rain and rain stuck to windshields and particle systems.
The particle system has
give
actually...
you 1 out of 2.
The particle system, I actually finished... Austin gave me a requirements list when we last talked. This was months ago.
Yep.
If it doesn't have these things, it's not done. And I actually finished my last one on that list on the flight over here. So the particle system is reaching a point where it's actually ready for production. That's something that's available to third parties. It's good for smoke effects. It's good for contrails. It's good for all those kinds of effects. That the heat blur that you see right now, people have been asking, well, how do I fix it for my plane?
Tire smoke when you touch down on the runway.
Explosions.
Right.
Explosions. There you go.
So we actually view 3D modeling, sound, and effects as these 3 things that artists come in and they customize all of them that work together to really make an immersive experience. I do not know at what build we're going to say the particle system is on, but what I can say is I've been actually getting my checklist items done, so it's going to be a finished thing. This is at a point where we're going to give it to the art team and let them start playing.
And I see a lot of people asking about contrails. Contrails are definitely part of the particle
They are
system.
Out there for sure.
Right. The new particle system has new rendering technology to do a contrail that I think will be quite a bit more efficient, because it can actually do a streamer. Because real contrails, I mean, they go for miles and miles, and they hang out forever, and you need something that's performant for that.
Yeah. So the new particle system will just let the artist say, well, given the air density, the speed, the horsepower, the prop RPM, how fast the tire is turning when it hits the runway, at what speed and side slip angle, the artist will be able to take all of this data to deliver particle effects that are physically realistic, which is my requirement that he provide before I let him replace my old system that I wrote 15 years ago or whenever it was, which we're still using now. When I could be convinced that the new system will be physically accurate while looking a ton better for the artist, that's when he was allowed to put the new system in, and it looks like he's meeting that bar. So we're going to get a new particle system fairly soon. Yeah. Weather, not so much. That's a bigger house to move. That's like picking up an old house and moving it. That I'm not sure we have planned for the super near future. Not this year, that's for sure. Not a whole new weather system. We agree it could be better, but it's not quite small enough for us to say, yeah, we got this on the short list.
Some people asking about, in VR, will the monitor have 2D full screen mirror functionality? I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, the monitor shows what the guy who's going like this, you can see what they're doing.
Right.
It's not as fun as having the headset on, but you can see it.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's see. A couple of users, being a little rude, I might add, are asking about flying in formation over networking. That it's
multiplayer.
I think they were upset that the planes couldn't stay next to each other. They kept jumping ahead and behind.
It'd take a pretty bad connection to do that.
I think
it could still happen.
I think we want a bug report, right?
Yeah. I mean, Google explain bug report and file the bug report. But the bottom line is I can address this on a couple of fronts. One, I wrote the initial multiplayer interface. It's kind of old and rickety. Yes, we still use it today, even though I wrote it, 10, 15 years ago, whenever it was. But when you are doing 400 knots in a jet and your location comes in 1/10 of a second later than it's supposed to, anybody that wants to pull out a calculator, how far do you move in 1 second at 400 knots? And the answer is a long ways, like quite a few football field lengths, quite a few. And so even a 1/10 of a second, or a 1 second delay in the network transmission can cause a jet to go shooting in front of the other. Now there is a way around it, or to help get around it, and that is to not broadcast your location so much as broadcast your speed, because the speed of a jet won't change very much in 1 second, will it? And so if you broadcast the speed, then even if your speed is late or early, by a second or a half a second compared to what's supposed to, since your speed didn't change that much in that time period, you still ought to be able to hold formation pretty well. And then what I do is I kind of apply a gradual little correction factor based on location, since that would always drift. Obviously, I'm not doing it perfectly or not well enough to work with our current multiplayer technology. Now, good news is when we get bug reports, we look at them. So if someone files a bug report, we'll look at it. Other good news, and I think I'm clear to talk about this. We hired a guy very recently who's one of his primary skill sets is networking. And so we hired him for the very specific purpose of just getting our networking dialed in so those messages go out on time, they make it through all the firewalls, you can easily set yourself up a multiplayer someplace, and to really improve the networking side.
Should we say hi to York?
Hey,
He's actually in Germany, so he might be asleep right now.
Yeah.
Congratulations, York. You got
3
me.
a.m. this time.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's see. One user is asking about, he said, Austin, any news on ground effect, interaction between wing downwash and horizontal tail, causing aircraft to be sucked to the ground? It was mentioned in the devlog for 1102R2.
Yeah, this is something that
I'm very
people
excited to talk about this one.
But you talked, a guy approached you in Hartford with this exact same thing, that the blanketing of the horizontal stabilizer causes control problems at low speed, high angle of attack, that like right before touchdown you lose too much elevator authority.
Right. It's I believe it's something slightly different than that. And here's what I mean
That's
by
what
that.
you told me, but okay.
Okay, well maybe okay. So almost. See, here's what it is. When an airplane is all right. So this is the airplane. Does this work? I guess it kind of does. This is the airplane as it's coming down into ground effect. As it's aimed at the prop wash, the wing wash, the downwash from the wings is coming down at an angle, right? And the more you raise the nose of the airplane, the more the downwash comes down. But here's the problem. The X-plane downwash model is based on all the technical reports that list how much downwash there is for each degree angle of attack of the airplane. What these tech reports don't take into account is the fact that downwash cannot come down through pavement. In other words, as you get down into the ground, all your downwash models start to go out the window because the air can't move the way it normally moves because the runway is there. Yeah, the runway effectively pressurizes it and stops the downwash. So X-Plane's downwash model is based on all the tech reports that were come up with for World War II, interestingly, of all things. But they're based on the tech reports that measure all the downwash. They didn't include, the tech reports I used, didn't include the fact that downwash doesn't go through pavement. And so the downwash model of X-Plane starts to lose accuracy as you get into ground effect, and so in a 737, as you start to flare, the downwash model onto the horizontal stabilizer becomes not quite right as you get close to the ground. Fascinating problem, solvable one. I think I've already looked at that a bit for X-Plane 1110, but I can look at it some more to make sure it's right. But I have looked at it and I have tweaked it. Marty, we can all hear that.
Yeah, Marty.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Sorry, guy in the background listening to his phone or something. Okay. So, yeah, the downwash model didn't quite understand that. X-Plane has a ground effect model. It has a downwash model. It didn't quite understand how to mix the two as they start interfering with each other, basically.
So it's on the roadmap.
It's on the roadmap, but I've actually already addressed it to at least some degree because I remember coding some of this recently. But I'd have to look at, for 1110, but I'd have to go back and look at my documents that have all my release notes to really list the specifics. But they will be in the release notes for 1110. You'll see it.
So Ben, some questions on clouds being transparent at night, lights going through them, and them looking black during the day.
Your favorite bug.
Looking black during the last one I'm not sure about.
A lot of people saying clouds at night bug.
Yeah, the things that are translucent are miserable for graphics cards. Like, graphics cards are fantastic for solid things, and when things become translucent, everything becomes a million times harder. And the problem that we have is that lights are kind of translucent, clouds are kind of translucent, airplanes, the props are kind of translucent. There's a ton of translucent stuff out there, and exactly what order you should see it in is hugely dependent on the camera and the airplane. And I've been working with Austin for like 300 years now, and we've tried every order of drawing, and it's just a question of, well, would you like this to be broken or this to be broken? And so, in the current order, the draw order has the lights drawing after the clouds, and they look like they're on top. So at the last minute, to kind of kick 11 out the door, we came up with this hack where if you're above the clouds, the lights don't draw. If they're below, they do. And it's a very crude approximation. There's no question it's not done yet. It works okay sometimes. It could be a lot
But do we have
better.
the clouds glowing over the cities at night? Can you see where the cities are by looking at the
We
clouds?
do not. We were talking about that at dinner yesterday.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that'd be so nice. We
to-
actually had that for a brief and shining moment. I coded it a long time ago for like X-Plane 7.
Right, but once the clouds became more complicated, maintaining it.
Yeah,
became-
my thing didn't work anymore.
I used to live in
Trick
San
didn't work.
Diego, and every time I'd fly home in the winter when it was overcast, there'd be this super thin layer of overcast, and you could totally tell where you were because of the glow.
Oh, it's so cool when you're flying a real airplane. You can see this glow underneath the clouds. It's so
but this
cool.
is the kind of problem the graphics cards hate, because it's like, how does the light from underneath get through, but only a little bit? We need better tech. We don't have it yet.
And I could see a hack that for each cloud puff looks at its location or proximity to a city center or an average of all the lights that were created when the DSF was loaded, and then just tweaks a little RGB on top of the puff. I mean, we could come up with a hack.
It's tricky though, because how thick is the cloud layer, right?
Oh yeah. Well,
clouds are
we'd be at it for a while.
Clouds are hard. I mean, getting the actual airplane from a code. I mean, Alex has to do the work to make the airplane look beautiful in the art team. I'm not saying that's easy because I can't do that. But the code to make a solid thing work is sort of a solved problem. That's physics. And the code to make translucent things and clouds and puffy things look right, that's voodoo and cheating, because the actual optics are just so much more complicated. You know, a photon goes and it bounces off a bunch of raindrops 1 billion times, and that's the end result. That's still pretty hard for today's graphics.
We can't ray trace that much.
Not yet.
1 frame per hour.
Yeah, longer than that.
All right, Chris, we're down to 10 minutes.
Holy cow.
10 minutes. Lightning round. I don't know.
Yes. No.
What's left? Let's
Your
see.
questions are coming in fast and furious.
I
You can't
do-
grab a few random.
well,
I'm not getting questions for some reason.
It's a lot of users want to know where the citation is.
Which citation?
The citation
This
is.
is updated.
The citation 10? Where is it?
Yes.
I mean, I'm not sure how can a thing that does not completely exist be in a location?
Well, that's the issue. Is it's not done.
Yeah, it's
yeah,
not done.
we pulled it because it wasn't up to Explain 11 quality. I mean, that's pretty much all there is to it.
Yeah.
We weren't happy with it. We weren't ready.
One of the big goals at Explain 11 was to really have a consistently high bar for all the planes, because in the past, X-Plane has been very fitful. Like, this plane has an amazing 3D cockpit, and this plane has an amazing exterior, and the problem was you couldn't actually get everything right at the same time. And you know, when all the elements come together, I think that's what really brings the visual experience to the next level.
So what's an airplane we have where it all comes together? I think the answer is the 737 and the MD-80.
Yeah.
For now.
For now. Those
Also the
And
Cessna,
the
and there's a lot of
172.
Yeah.
172 is awesome.
172 is
The
great.
King Air with the updates that Jim's doing is going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
When
for
those
sure.
updates are done,
Yeah.
which are in process.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a really painful decision, pulling the citation at the last minute.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
So many things about it were great, but
It's very-
I want it to be across the board uniformly.
It's very easy to make a statement, oh, next time around we're going to be really consistent, and then it's hard when things are close, but,
Yeah.
you know.
Is the new Lego brick stuff shown at Flight Sim Con ready for 1110?
Yes.
Alex says yes.
Cool. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Awesome. Ship it.
Ship it.
Let's see. Repeating water texture. When will it be fixed?
The future. No, the water texture does repeat. Sydney and I are both aware of this, and we've talked about things we can do. It's not already coded, but there's no question that we need some way to break up the pattern more.
Physics for float planes and amphibs.
Oh, God.
Austin!
Austin's favorite bug.
Okay.
Austin's going to take a flight. That's
To give you an idea of how busy I am, the thing on my to-do list was to go get some float plane flight time. I actually have not made the time to do it. That is how busy I am.
What could be more fun?
I know, nothing could be more
Right?
fun, and I still haven't made the time. But,
Two things came together. First, the guy that I had lined up to get Austin the float plane time had his plane break down so badly. Then he couldn't find any mechanic. Then he couldn't find any part. And the last I've heard from him is, he's selling the broken plane, as broken as it is, because he cannot get the part and he cannot get the mechanic. And at the same time, Austin didn't have any time. So that's the answer to float plane.
okay, but we don't accept defeat quite as easily. We will come up with an alternative. There is a way I can fly a float plane, get a feel for how it works, do a little more research into the fluid dynamics and the interaction of the water with the aluminum, which is really what it comes down to, obviously. And do a little research on that interaction, get that flight model dialed in. It's absolutely possible. Of course it's possible. And just make some time to get some float plane instruction to see if it feels right, too, when it's done. Definitely a doable thing. I definitely admit it's not as good as it could be. I definitely have the ability to do better. It is just a time priority thing, but that one is kind of up high on the priority list because it actually is not a huge thing for me to code it.
Yeah.
It's I got to make take 4, 5, 6 days out of my life to go do it with flight test of the real airplane, and maybe another 2 or 3 days doing the code another 2 or 3 days to test. I mean, the next thing you know, there's a week or 2 weeks gone.
Your Evo is a home built plane. I don't understand why you didn't just go and get some floats and
Yeah,
yeah,
I could have done it.
I've got questions coming back in all of a sudden.
Okay.
A couple of people have commented on hire more developers. We might talk a little bit because we've actually
we got 2
grown
more
our
that we just
workforce.
hired.
right. So we already did that. We
And
hired.
so shout out to the 2 new people who are not in the room right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
There-
one of whom is responsible for the frame rate increase we're seeing
Right.
through the 11.0 run, and you're going to see it more in the 11.10 run.
And-
So we have hired more developers, and the results are showing up in terms of better frame rate. And also, because we have developers doing some of the annoying little things we haven't gotten around to doing, that's freed us up to do more of the stuff we've been meaning to do, such as fixing and improving the air traffic control system. So we have hired new developers that is improving things as far as frame rate and us getting to the stuff that we've been getting to too slowly.
I think we
There's,
feel.
we also
we feel
if
pretty.
I,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
if I may, we have more artists on the team than we ever have, and,
That's true.
And more programmers.
everyone's doing more programmers, more artists. Everyone's doing a bang up job, and you know,
We have been at every one of these we've done for as long as we've done them. We've had get another programmer on the to-do list, and this is actually the first meeting we've
That's true.
had where we've
What
actually
we
said
have.
First time
we
in
have exactly the head count we
4
planned,
years.
as opposed to oh crap, we're still 1 behind. And what was great was so we did a review of what did we plan to do. And a lot of stuff got killed off. You know, it was
stuff done, yep.
you know, we can already feel the difference of having the right size team.
And I tried to hire just one more programmer to save money, and this guy started profanities. Oh my goodness, the profanities on the phone.
I used
gave
my
him
words.
both. Yeah, he used his words. Woo! They melted my phone. But we got 2 more programmers. Yeah, not just 1, 2.
So in defense of having a small team, something that people might not realize, like we've been operating with a very small team for a very long time, and that does mean that stuff doesn't come out as fast as we would certainly like it. We know you guys would like it too, but it does mean that we've stayed in business when other sims have gone under.
Right,
Yeah.
we're not looking to have a 100% engineering team.
Right.
No.
You know,
I mean,
Right.
And-
I mean, that means we're here for the long haul.
Yeah.
for sure.
There's some questions, Chris, on X-Plane 11 to mobile.
X-Plane 11 mobile. I don't even know what that that is. I'm not sure how long we're going to keep parity with the version numbers. They don't. X-Plane mobile is its own. It's kind of its own thing. It shares a lot of code with desktop. When we first started X-Plane 10 mobile, it shared almost nothing. At this point, it shares a lot. Flight model, the systems, the sound is going to be
Right.
the same. Hint.
right? It's got X-Plane 11 737. It's got X-Plane
Right.
11
It's-
flight model.
it's the
got
same
X-Plane,
aircraft.
Yeah.
But what makes X-Plane 11 desktop, a lot of the beautiful the lighting and things like that we do, it's not going to happen on mobile devices right now. So I'm not sure what we would call it. I don't know. I've been toying with the idea of dropping the version number on mobile entirely.
Just
but
X-Plane
it's not-
mobile.
Just X-Plane mobile, yeah.
Yeah.
But we're
It's just
definitely
constantly getting the
Yeah.
cool stuff from
The,
desktop
the,
filtering
the
down
mobile
into
market
it.
is not built around new version every 3
Right.
years. It's,
Right.
it's not like that, you know.
I think X-Plane Mobile is definitely going to keep our attention. It will still get constant updates. So when we change the number to 11, I don't know that we ever will. Or
Probably just nuke the number 10 and call it
Yeah.
X-Plane
It-
mobile and we're good.
yeah,
Yeah,
But
so
mobile's here to stay for sure.
Yeah.
It will get
Continuous
technology
upgrades.
from X-Plane
Yes.
11
Yeah,
desktop.
As
it's already
it's
gotten
been
it.
doing.
Yeah,
As it's already
the
been
430, 530, and FMS are coming.
Yeah,
to
it
mobile
kind
right
of
now.
became 11 without a fan.
Yeah, it's kind of crossed the line from 10 to
Yeah.
11 already.
You know, you
Stealth
can
11.
You can plan on art assets, especially aircraft and everything, having a consistent carryover too.
Yeah.
You know.
A user is talking about merging aircraft files from mobile to desktop, desktop to mobile. That's something that's already happening.
They are already the same.
Yeah.
Mobile is a closed system right now to its benefit, and I don't know. We haven't really talked about opening that up at some point, but right now it allows mobile development to go faster, in that we only have to worry about our aircraft and not supporting an entire world of third-party aircraft.
It's like developing for a game console, right?
Yeah.
It's this sealed up thing,
Right.
which gives us a little bit of latitude to cut some corners,
Yeah.
which helps because they're small machines compared to desktop.
Right.
Right. The desktop is bigger, and you never know what you're going to get because maybe there's an add-on airplane, and there's been some new scenery, but the desktop has more wattage,
Horsepower to
deal with.
handle it.
I think we have time for one final question in the last 90 seconds for Philip. Several questions on SIDS and stars,
Yeah.
approaches, avionics. You want to mention?
And what's the
No,
question?
they're asking
Oh,
about
just-
ATC.
I think they are talking. Okay, so we had this on the board today during our way too long
The board.
discussion.
It's the whiteboard that lists the future of
exactly.
Explain.
So
It is
during
a
our
whiteboard.
way too long discussion, we also discussed what would be the best way to get the zits and stars that you can already fly into the ATC system. So that the ATC controller can issue a star, and then the AI plane can fly the star, which, by the way, also prevents it from crashing into mountains if it just follows the altitude restrictions on the star. So
This is on the roadmap.
this is on the
yeah,
roadmap.
this is-
Yeah.
yeah.
On the road. Let's take more of let's do a quick little overtime. Can you find a freaky or off the wall question to close up on?
Somebody keeps saying Jennifer Roberts. I don't know why.
Jennifer Roberts.
Is your husband on here?
All right. Okay. Hey.
It's Jennifer.
I'm not sure that counted as a question. We have an off the wall
It was
question.
one
I
of
can yell about bug
let's
reports if
see.
you want.
I don't actually know how we got development done before Jennifer was on the team, because when she
Able
goes
to
on
test.
vacation,
Yeah.
she goes on vacation, and
everything breaks
and
down.
I just started with a quivering bowl of jelly, and I'm like, I don't know.
That's
we know
because
if
I
anything
answer all the bug
works.
reports now, and Ben used to. So
Thank
they didn't
God.
get touched for weeks.
Here's
already.
a Ben one. It's not off the wall, but longer rendering distance on night lights.
Ooh, I care about that one. That's
Yeah.
a good one.
Yeah.
Right, that's a big
So-
one.
The airports come in so far away.
Yeah.
Right. So the reason we don't do that now is because the current rendering engine was designed for a 32-bit X-Plane world. Because turn back the clock to when it was designed, that's what we had. And if you were to do the scenery that far out, you would run out of memory. So we spent all of our effort trying to crunch down into 32 bits. That's not a problem anymore. There is still a performance cost to having the instantiation of the scenery. I have some ideas on how to rebuild how we generate the scenery as we fly, which would improve load times. I think the new system can also have longer draw distance. So my current thinking is the longer draw distance comes as a very beneficial byproduct of streamlining the internal engine so that it can support these long draw distances. Because right now, the lights aren't drawn not because we didn't draw them, but because they don't exist.
Yeah, that's
right?
something
And they need to
created.
be and they need to be brought into existence,
Yep.
which is a non-trivial problem.
But it's one that's good for having a lot of cores and stuff running all at the same time,
Right.
which is exactly what we're working
We can do
towards.
something that's very multi-core friendly, takes
Yeah.
advantage of the fact that we know we have 64 bits, and then we can finally say, okay, now we have lights out 50 kilometers or whatever.
Yeah, definitely. So important. So, just funny little thing. I've been flying real airplanes at night, and I mean, been able to see cities so far away,
Oh, yeah.
so far away from
Yeah.
the lights
Oh, yeah.
at night. And thunderstorms as well. I've been flying towards a destination that was still 100 miles away, and I could see thunderstorms and lightning in front of me at
Yeah.
night, and there's
Yeah.
no way I'm going to make it.
Yep.
And I get to my destination before I make it to the thunderstorm.
Yeah.
Sure.
So being able to draw lights and stuff from real far away
Right.
is such a cool thing to do at night.
Right.
And so hard, obviously, for computers that have limited range.
Right. Now that we got the extended DSFs and the daytime visibility isn't as much of a factor, the lights kind of popped out as, uh-oh, what about these guys? They didn't come along for the ride.
All right, what time is it?
7:32.
All right.
Jinx.
That's it.
Thanks for watching.
Is that about what we're good for?
Jazz Arrow wants to know if we can have submarines. He dared us to answer the question.
The answer
So-
is no.
There was a Japanese submarine in World War II with amphibious aircraft that parked in little
Yeah.
hangars.
Wait, if I just fly my airplane into the water really fast, you're
It
telling me I
becomes
can't...
a submarine briefly.
Yeah, for like at least one frame.
Yeah, but still no.
If you flip your plane upside down and you're in the 3D cockpit, you'll actually go into the water.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Oh, you can absolutely invert
And,
that
and,
172.
and in the VR
Yeah.
headset, that is a terrible idea. Oh my god.
Don't do it.
Hey, thank you for watching. We appreciate you guys as our customers, and we're working hard to make it even better.
Yeah, it's been pretty fun.
Thanks.
Bye.
All right.
All right.
Have a good night.
How do we sign off?
The awkward moment where Tyler gets up and tries